This is Martin Curtis, and this is still Change from the Centre. Today, it won't surprise you, I'm going to talk about this whole Mandelson affair, which has been an absolute disaster, not just for the government, not just for the Prime Minister, but actually for the whole political system. I would say it's been a disaster for Peter Mandelson, but I don't care, to be fair. Um, it's worth saying and repeating that Change from the Centre is about the need for the political centre to wake up to the fact that our political system is broken and provide and start looking for alternatives and looking for better ways of governing a country. And what's interesting is the Conservatives have caught onto that language, and they've been using broken politics for a few weeks now, and it's a way of them separating themselves from Reform, who are still talking about broken Britain, and Britain isn't broken. Our country is full of magnificent people and some amazing institutions, and its best years are still ahead of them, but those best years will come much quicker if we can sort something out with our political system and make it better and drive the change that's needed from the centre ground. What's interesting is, for the first time, the Mandelson affair has led to some language from government, really, or from government sources is the way I'd put it, that are starting to talk about the whole need to recreate the state. This is what Sam Coates from Sky News reported on a podcast today, and it's been broadcast on Sky News a few times as well. This stuff, not just the Epstein stuff, but the whole revolting elite network exposed. I rather agree with a government source who despairingly emailed me last night. Honestly, the whole thing is effed. Obviously, Mandelson is awful and lying through his teeth, but the entire thing, the entire files are utterly depressing. They implicate the entirety of the states and higher society on both sides of the Atlantic. It would just support further the case for tearing down the state and starting again. That was a government reaction to what was going on yesterday. So that's a government source saying that. And they don't say those things lightly. I mean, it probably leaked a little bit, which is also naughty. But it does show that there is an awakening to the fact that our system is broken. And these things keep happening. You know, Mandelson, we've allowed it to happen. I think this is the third time now. And I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of what he did. It's quite clear that what he did was wrong. I know he challenges some of it. He says he doesn't recall receiving £75,000, but previously in his political career, he did receive and not declare a loan from Jeffrey Robinson. So you know it doesn't matter, does it? The issues for me are about the implications for it. The first one is, why is it so hard to remove Peter Mandelson from the House of Lords? And that's not just about Mandelson. One of the things that interested me was that Jeffrey Archer is still allowed to call himself Lord Archer, despite everything that he's been through and been found wanting for. And it looks like at the moment there are two things going on. For certain, Keir Starmer is drawing up legislation to allow a vote to see Peter Mandelson removed of his status as a Lord, and I think that's great. That means he will no longer be able to call himself Lord Mandelson. But at the same time, I believe it is very, very likely that before that happens, and maybe as a way of heading that off, he is going to rescind his status as a Lord. But I don't think that should be allowed, and I think that that we need to have whatever it is that goes through Parliament, but we need to have better mechanisms for doing this. And it does once again show, you know, the fact that our system is so outdated that it is not able to cope with dealing with people who don't meet the standards that we expect of them in public life. There is a thing called the Privy Council, whose role technically is as advisors to the King. And you can find out about who the Privy Council are. There's briefings all over the place about what they do and who they are. But to me, why not use a body like that to examine evidence and to give advice? And one other thing they might be able to do is examine some of the undisclosed evidence that was given to Keir Starmer, which was about whether Peter Mandelson should or should not be appointed to as ambassador to the United States, when given his background, and he was almost certainly vetted. And I do think if it turns out that the advice following that vetting was that he should not be appointed and that he's a character that is probably not to be trusted, then I think Keir Starmer's going to be in trouble. And my gut instinct is, if that turns out to be the case, then Keir Starmer will try and find a fall guy, probably Morgan McSweeney, rather than himself. But I think Keir Starmer might well be toast from that. I think he might be forced to resign, which might be the way the Labour Party get rid of him, and we see yet another new Prime Minister. And it might, without them going through the rigmarole of getting rid of him, which is really difficult from the Labour Party's perspective. But the point I want to make is and I think I've made it, is that the wash up as far as our country being able to deal with an errant politician and an errant, a high profile individual who has been appointed to senior positions by the state is really, really wanting. And I do think that one of the things from this is, if and when we move towards proportional representation, and I would hope it happens sooner rather than later, one of the things that comes from it is a written constitution which allows us to deal with some of these things. But fundamentally, there's no two ways. As far as British politics is concerned, this is just another example of the fact that our political system is broken. I am going to put a link in the description to the video I did about broken Britain versus broken politics, which I think is related to this. So please feel free to have a look at that. It'll get this, and you can go into the description for this video and do it. Once again, if you like what I'm saying, please like it. Please like this video, and also please subscribe to the channel, because that means when I do produce new information and new videos, you will be able to see them, and you'll be able to go straight, and they'll come up on your feed and stuff like that. So the more, if you can do that, it helps me and it helps you to see what I'm saying. Once again, thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen to me and taking the time to look at my beautiful face.